Nigerians. Away from that particular development, let's talk other matters, especially it has to do with leadership in the country. Now, nations and organizations that have achieved sustained growth often trace their success to one factor, which is effective leadership. In Nigeria, the need to sustain such leadership is urgent as the country tackles economic challenges, institutional reforms, and shifting global dynamics. Leaders at every level, public and private, must rise to the moment. Experts urge that sustainable development depends not just on policies, but on the quality of those who implement them. Now, strong institutions are built by people who lead with integrity, competence, and courage to drive the change. Now, some also say to unlock Nigeria's full potential and that of its institutions, we must invest in leaders who will not only imagine a better future, but take decisive steps to build it. Now, join us for this conversation is the Executive and Leadership Coach and Chief Visionary Officer of Mentors Leadership. I'm talking about Bab Olugbemi. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on your show.
This morning. When I checked your biography, I saw a lot about you from being a chartered accountant and also talking leadership. So what's the connection?
Yeah, I discovered my strength zone. Right from school, I became a chartered accountant and I started my banking career long ago. But in the process, I was asking myself questions. And fortunately for me, I discovered that I love to work more with people, inspire them, develop them, and I began to look into that space. So I've authored 8 books in all areas, trying to uplift the people's potential. And now I do executive and leadership coaching, and I help leaders and organizations to be at their best by creating an enabling environment. That's what I do.
So effective leadership, let's talk about it. How would you define effective leadership, and how can we use it to transform our country into a better state?
Well, good starting point, good question. There is nothing we can achieve without leadership, be it at personal level, organizational level. And in the context of leadership, we have 3 elements. You have the leaders, you have the people, and you have the environment. Now, it is the job of the leader to build the people so that the people can build the vision, and it is also the job of the leaders to build an enabling environment. So leaders must know the expectation from them. They must bring energy and excellence into that expectation. So when you see leadership failure, or when you see that things are not the way it should, then there is a leadership question. Now, in this discussion, I'm going to use a noun, workplace, as a common denomination for organization leadership and national leaderships. Do you agree with that? Workplace means we are substituting environment in the 3 elements with workplace. Now, when you see things not going on, that means there is a lack of leadership. And that means there is a leadership question. And wherever I see leadership question, 3 things happen. 1, there is capacity gaps. 2, there is fulfillment gaps. And number 3, there is an opportunity. Opportunity for somebody that is visionary, who can take decisive decision, who can put self-interest below and put common interest above to manifest. And I will share with you example of few countries that were in this similar situation we are, but have used effective leadership to transform the people, to transform the environment, and to transform their country. Quickly, let's look at this. Let's look at Turkey. I don't want to use Singapore. We have overused Singapore as an example.
A lot of people will keep using countries outside Nigeria.
I will use some country in Africa as well.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay.
Tell me. Now, can we use Turkey, for example, briefly? We have similarity with Turkey. In 1924, the first president of Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, came into power. He sent people to Greece, France to study their constitutions, and came back and said, though we are an Islamic country, we want to be secular in nature. He suspended the Sultanate, the Caliphate, and he said, in my school, girls' child must go to school. They must be educated in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Look at it today. Turkey didn't have any natural resources. They have strategic location. Today, let's start rolling the statistic. Literacy rate, Turkey is 98%. Nigeria is 96% or 93%. Economic GDP, Turkey is 1.1 trillion USD. Nigeria is about 500 billion. Name it, they are ahead of us. That means somebody came on board as a leader, did something very right, something that is selfless, something that affects the commonality of the people. Now, I used to say this, I have little respect for the founding fathers of Nigeria.
Why?
Right, it's very simple. If the outcome of leadership is producing results, now the manifestation we are seeing today, the result we are seeing, were the product of their ideologies, their action, what they focus on.
Let's narrow it down to Nigeria.
Yep.
We have a president.
Correct.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It took one decision when it got into power. Subsidies gone. And we're seeing the reactions now. Leaders, they take decisive decisions.
Correct.
What do you make of this?
Good question. You see, we should have removed subsidy 15 years ago. But we have a president that came into power and decided to take that decisive decision. Are we expecting things to remain the same? No. We need to make sacrifice. If you look at Estonia, look at Chile, look at Rwanda here, look at Morocco, Ghana, they've done some kind of economic reformation. There will be pains. So for him coming in and taking that bold decision, I think we should commend him. And I used to say this, the important factor in leadership is credibility. If you have not done it before, there's likelihood that when you get to that stage, you will not be able to do it. So in my own opinion, I feel him coming on board and taking that difficult economic decision is a plus. It could have been otherwise. He could have come on board and still do business as usual, and he will not be able to take that decision. Now, there are short-term pains that will bring long-term gain in the long run.
The fact that you're talking about pain, because many Nigerians are literally still in pain, and they have a general mistrust for Nigerian government officials and leaders. How do you think that our leaders can regain that trust and legitimacy back?
Good one again. I think we should not just have mistrust for the Nigerian government.
But that's hard to say when you haven't eaten for like the whole day.
Yeah, I think we should not just have mistrust for the current government. We should begin to question the intention and the sincerity of our political leadership. That is the starting point. If we have pragmatic survivors, it's a type of followership where people cannot stay with one political party, manage their various interests, where they need to move from one party to the other, then whose interest are they protecting? It's self-interest. I want to tell you this, I will tell you for free. In every society, there are corruption, there are personal interest, but what the developed world has done, what they have done is they've put the commonwealth of the people above corruption and personal interest. So to answer your question directly, leaders that will make generational impact will do what is required, not what is in their best interest. So at this moment, what is required for Nigeria, and I think every political actor have agreed that you need to remove subsidy, you need to liberalize the foreign exchange, you need to decentralize power in this country before we can move forward. And somebody came on board and he started with us.
So how can leaders feel the pulse of their followers to be able to make necessary adjustments to better their lives?
Okay, before I answer that question, I would like to point this out. The pains we are experiencing is not total, it's partial. Simply because you and I, we are feeling the pain of subsidy removal, and we still believe the cost of governance is very high. That's a very good concern. But look at our institution. Our institution has allowed certain things to happen. So if I put you in that leadership position, if you have the noble intention, what will consume you will be the institution on ground. That's why I said we should follow the likes of Estonia that invested in their civil service, and they built strong institutions that can overpower any politician. So to answer your question, the pain is being felt, but we are at the start of the bridge. We are not at the end of it. And I believe that with this reform, gradually, things will get better.
If we're talking about countries, let's talk about organizations.
Right.
Now. COVID happened, post-COVID, AI, remote work, a lot of things are happening in the organizations and corporate world. How do you think that leaders, organizational leaders, can stay relevant in this time?
Yeah, we need to be adaptable. I work with a lot of aspiring executive leaders as coach. And when people come into leadership position, they have to at least quickly adapt to the demand of that position. 2, leadership is an art as well as a science. You deal with people, so there will be a behavioral science, there will be a model. I'll give you an example. Between year 2020 to 2025, I was the chief executive of Tribes Corporate Support Limited, an outsourcing company. And I led that company while seated in the UK. Then, as my head office coming to visit. Now, I work with this Gen Z and millennial. So in the corporate setting, the most important factor is the culture of the organization. Have you built an environment where people are seen, where people are valued, and where people are motivated? When leaders come to my coaching and they are telling me their staff are good, are bad, I say, stop there, let's look at it. Before you condemn the flower, check the garden.
Okay.
Before you castrate your
and
people,
that
check the environment, the climate
to the point,
because
we don't have much time.
Okay, I know.
Let's quickly talk about the followers.
The followers, yeah.
You've made mention of leaders.
Yeah.
There's this 48 laws of power, which says do not outshine your master. Yep. Can you narrow it down to some rules followers need to key into to be able to bring that effective leadership?
Well, I think because of time, I'm going to use just an analogy.
Okay.
Right. We do complain about Gen Z simply because we don't understand them, simply because we use outdated leadership styles, and we are not managing the work climate and environment to align with them. So I'm going to use this analogy to answer your question. It starts with leadership, not followership. And I've used a word here, pragmatic survival is a type of followers. I've mentioned followership here. So what leaders need to do is to adapt to the situation of times. I'll give an example. There was a CEO long ago. He was leading an organization, and he had 12 executive directors. They were all millennials and Gen Z. It was doing so well in terms of metrics, everything. Then the regulators and competitors became so jealous that they want to get him arrested. On getting to the point of arresting the leader, they met 13 people. The leader, the CEO, plus the 12 executive directors. And those who were to carry out the arrest start asking questions. Who is the CEO among you? They couldn't identify him. That is a transformational leader who has put developing the executive people above personal interest. If you flip it to this dispensation, you can identify the leader. The one that speaks unruly to people, the one that has the biggest perquisite of office, the one that is well-dressed above everybody, the one that is like a sage on the stage. Now, so leadership is how well you advance people. In my upcoming book, Uplifting Leadership, I've defined it as how you develop people, how you prepare them, and how you motivate them to build the vision.
Speaking of building up people, young people, Gen Z, just like you mentioned, how can they train themselves up for being future leaders, future national and organizational leaders?
It starts from now. You know, I have one greatest fear about leadership. And that's why if you are an organization leader, if you are a political leader, you need to know that some people are watching you. In leadership, any behavior that is not adequately punished or any behavior that is rewarded will be massively repeated. So people are watching you as a leader. If I'm a leader, if I'm a National Assembly member and on this program, I'm telling you 43 million naira every month is not enough for me. Nigeria is just changing me. Somebody is watching me. And when it gets to that leadership position, it will also come with positional and entitlement mindset. So Gen Z of today, you need to start filtering what you are seeing from your leader. Don't be a funnel, be a fitter. Look at your leaders.
Which translates to making impacts.
Yep.
And being a man or a woman of integrity.
Yep. So going forward, you need to just...
In 30 seconds?
In 30 seconds, you need to study your leaders and filter what is good and decide that when I get to that leadership position, I'm not going to do this because this is not a way to be sustainable.
It's a fine place to live it. Executive and leadership coach and chief vision officer of Mentors Leadership, Babs Olugbemi. Thanks so much for joining us. Some would do say that anyone who leads and has no follower is just taking a stroll.
Just taking a stroll.